But I do think it's weird how some people have kids and you wouldn't think that based on their act, based on their social media, it's like, what do you spend time with your children? There's so much pretend in the entertainment industry. I'm always baffled by it. It's like, I love acting and I love doing movies, but it's like, even when you go to a premiere, you're like, this is just where we saw Avengers a week ago. I know that we're art house people now, but like, I just sat here with my 6-year-old and now we're pretending that we're at the Kodak Theater. I don't, you know what I mean? Or the Dolby Theater. It's just a strange kind of delusion.
Yeah, Hollywood, I get less and less enchanted by Hollywood the older I get, where I just go like someone asked me if I want, this is gonna really fuck my chances. Someone just asked me if I wanted to be in a big budget movie as like the funny guy that comes in for a scene, and I was like, nah. He was like, why not? And I was like, I feel like it'd be a waste of time. Like, you can find a guy that's his goal in life. Yeah, like, I'm not good at that. And I really, when I act, I feel personally, if it's not my project, when I act, I feel like I'm monumentally wasting my time.
Well, by the way, I look at like the empires of you and Segura and his wife, and I'm just like, it's like, why do it?
This for me is so, dude.
I love acting, so it's like,
you're a great fucking actor. I remember your part in the fucking Three Kings.
Oh wow, that's so funny.
You've been in movies where I just pop up and go, shut the fuck up. Has your kids ever done that? Been watching a movie and go, Dad, is that you?
Yeah, no, they do that. They're like, are you in 13 going on 30? I'm like, yeah, I am. And they're like, I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm in that. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that.
You've been in more movies this past year than, like what, 5?
7, but it's just strange timing. Some of it's an animated, some of it is like these indie art house movies that take
fucking movies.
Yeah.
Can I tell you
that's over 2 years and they all just came out the same year.
The trailer that blew me away. My movie that I'm like, I'm going to love this.
Yeah.
Is where you play two dads.
Oh, really? Families. Oh, yeah.
I loved that trailer.
Oh, really? Oh,
I love that trailer.
Thanks. Yeah, that's fun. I mean, that's just like, it's just so fun. Like, the weird thing is like, I don't think, let me just make sure. I just think that comedians, we are such independent and we're spoiled by our independence. Going on stage, we're going to talk about something, we're going to change our minds or we're going to alleviate this tension. We're going to just talk off the top of our heads and try and make it funny. That same kind of joy we feel in that, I find that in acting.
But you're so good at
being like, like sitting in that tension. So like, even when you do a joke that the audience is going to like be like shocked or kind of taken back, the same glee in that or enjoyment we feel in that is, I feel that in a moment where there's like the character you're playing is doing the wrong thing. Like because the audience is like, oh dude, don't do that. So it's just as gratifying as relieving tension, I think. You'll show pictures of your kids on social media.
Oh.
And I do that too. And then there's some people that don't ever bring up that they have kids, or they put like some
like a heart emoji over the kid's face.
And so my approach is kind of, I think people that like my comedy are not gonna stalk and murder my children, but I also think that I'm not embarrassing them.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's weird. I'm sure
I'm embarrassing mine. I've taken the approach. Can I tell you my problem is that I got into the business when it was like, you talked about what you knew, and and I didn't know another way to do it, so I just did that. And then when I started dating my wife, I talked about having sex with her, or what a date, or whatever. And when I had kids, I'm not saying I'm famous, but I wasn't famous at all. So like, I used social media the way a regular person used it. Like, hey guys, I grew up with these are my daughters. You know, like
absolutely.
So I started posting before I had any success, and then I was on Travel Channel. No one gave a fuck about my family. And so, and then I started talking about my kids on stage.
Yeah.
I had one joke that Ian Bagg pulled me aside. He goes, "That is where your comedy's going. It's about my daughter putting her finger in her ass and then putting it in the dog's mouth." And I was like, really? He goes, he's like, don't try it. Because I was trying to be like a young, like Dane, Nick Swartz, and like a young, fun guy. Like,
yeah.
And then he's like, you have a daughter who's putting her finger in your ass and putting it in her ass and putting it in the dog's mouth. That's where you should be going. And so I started going that direction. Now I've taken it. I think I've gone too far east sometimes.
Well, there is something about, obviously you're constantly getting feedback from your children and your wife and stuff like that. So it's like, some of it is, look, their dad is the machine. But I do think it's weird how some people have kids and you wouldn't think that based on their act, based on their social media, it's like, what, do you spend time with your children? Because I also feel as though as long as my act is not all kids material, that's the goal. The goal is to I always have 5 or 10 minutes out of an hour 10 about my kids. But I remember being 26 and seeing comedians talk about their wives or their husbands and kids, and I'm like, I don't want to hear that.
I am Greg Fitzsimmons was the first one I saw talk about his having a kid, and I didn't have kids, and I was like, well, that's not nerdy. That's okay. Yeah. I'd hear guys coming up in the city and my wife and my kid, and I was just like, I'm tapped out.
Yeah, I would totally tap out.
So that old tell, don't you have a dick? Why isn't he talking about it?
This episode was brought to you by The Machine.